Yep, we are recording in progress and we are about to go live, my friend, on Facebook. So right now we are just preparing ourselves. It's World Read Aloud Day. How you feeling today, Emery?
I'm feeling great. I
You
love
feeling
World
great?
Aloud Day. Yes, it's my first one as an author.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Hmm. Usually I was the teacher getting people to read to my class.
Ah, I see, I see. Well, I am giving you the countdown in three. That's not three, that's four. Two. We are on, my friend. We are on. Welcome to World Read Aloud Day. I am Kwame Alexander. I have lost my voice, but luckily I'm not reading this morning. We have a fantastic author with us who I'm going to introduce to you in a second. But first, I got a few things I want to say. Number one, again, happy World Read Aloud Day. World Read Aloud Day was founded, I want to say in 2013 by Pam Allen, who runs a literacy organization called LitWorld. And I happen to be a part of the first World Read Aloud Day in New York City with another friend of mine who I'll talk to you all about later. But World Read Aloud Day is really about, I think like Thomas Jefferson said, like these really prophetic, meaningful, significant words. There were four words. I cannot live without books. Okay, that was five words, but you get my point. In order for us to feel alive, to feel like we matter, like we're important, like we have something to do, to be, I think reading is that thing that can help us become that. We can see what's possible for ourselves, for our community, for our country. And I think that's why we are so excited to launch this hashtag Read Strong in Florida, in Virginia, in Texas, in every state, in every corner of this country, around the world. We really believe, and I could talk all day about this, that books allow young people in particular, but all of us, to be able to look at it like this. Right now, Anne-Marie and I are both looking out of a window, right? So the metaphor is we are able to see outside of ourselves, of our homes, and we can appreciate the snow. We got snow, right, Anne-Marie?
Yes,
We
we
got
did.
snow. Anne-Marie loves snow. Ah, she loves the cold, but that's another story. So we're able to see outside of ourselves and be able to appreciate the world that's beyond us. And that makes us ultimately become better human beings. And what a great testament to being strong than to being a better human being. That's where we find our strength. I believe that if we want to be strong, we gotta read strong. See, I brought it full circle. So welcome you all. I'm not gonna be talking all day because I don't have a voice, but she does have a voice. She's a recently retired teacher of 31 years, where she taught first graders. You're clapping because you're done or because you
No,
did it?
I'm clapping because I did it and I'm alive. Teachers know what I'm talking about.
And ironically, Anne-Marie and I are probably about 12 minutes away from each other, but we're in our homes right now. And she's about to share with you a story that is challenging, but should not be challenged. She is the author of dozens of books, including the Arithmetics. Yeah, Arithmetics add up. She's the author of Catastrophe. She loves, she's a word person. And so what better person to have today in our Read Strong movement You saw Eric Rosswood earlier, and now you're about to witness Anne Marie Stevens reading An American Story. Take it away, my friend.
Hi, everyone. I am so lucky I get to read this book. And if you haven't heard it, you're in for a treat. I will tell you, it is an important book. It's a beautiful book. It's a sad book, but it's also a book that if you have it in your classroom or you have it in your home, you are going to talk about it. You are going to talk so much about it. And that's really a sign of a good book, right? The ones that you want to talk about afterwards and during. So here we go with An American Story. How do you tell a story that starts in Africa and ends in horror? An unbelievable story about evil plans and big guns hiding in the night, waiting. And I am going to hold up these pictures because Dare Coulter's artwork is phenomenal. While the girls and the boys finish chores, play games, listen to old tales of trickster spiders and talking drums, waiting. For the women to sing everyone to sleep, for the men to dream of tomorrow, waiting. I'm wondering if you know what that waiting is for. To steal them away from their lives and sell them to America. That spread, right? But you can't sell people. How do you tell a story about slavery? About sly men from cold places, scheming and laughing on tall ships, while people shackled below, crammed in small, hot spaces, cry and sometimes die. A story of struggle and sacrifice about bold men and women jumping into the sea, into the jaws of sharks, because they were scared and didn't know they were being taken, or what they'd find when they got there. Maybe they just wanted to escape. How do you tell that story about copper dreams wrapped in iron chains, about working hard for long hours from can see to can't for free? About picking cotton and growing sugar under the burning sun, while blonde-haired boys and girls ate their candy and played tag before school in their woolen breeches and cotton gowns, and no reading aloud, and no reading aloud. About planting corn and threshing rice and curing tobacco and harvesting coffee and cooking and cleaning and building for free. Why weren't they paid? That's not fair. How do you tell a story about strength and pride and refusing to be broken? And refusing to stop smiling and loving. And each night gathering the children by the fire to hear tales of Moses and trickster rabbits and missing home and missing home. That's sad. Really, really sad, Miss Simmons. How do you tell that story and not want to weep for the world? A story about mothers fleeing in the wind, wading in the water, conducting freedom, about fathers fighting back, stealing away, chasing liberty, about some being caught by the searing lash of night riders and others riding the night by the light of the North Star. About little girls waking up in the middle of the night to their tormented mothers pleading, "Please don't take my boy from me." About families torn apart, sold like cattle. I don't think I can continue. It's just too painful. I shouldn't have read this to you. I'm so sorry, children. But don't you tell us to always speak the truth, Miss Simmons, even when it's hard? When I've done something bad, my dad always says, you can't change the past, but you can do better in the future. Whenever I'm sad, my grandma sings me her favorite poem. We've suffered, been battered, our lives have been scattered, but we're still here. And that's all that matters. We're still here. How do you tell an American story about standing up and speaking out, about Sojourner Truth and Robert Smalls, about the Civil War and emancipation, about yesterday's nightmare and the courage to dream a new tomorrow? How do you tell a story this hard to hear, one that hurts and still loves? You do it by being brave enough to lift your voice, by holding history in one hand and clenching hope in the other. Any teachers out there, I have to tell you, Kwame did something really cool in this book. If you look at the front, he dedicated it to us. And I think that feels like something special, but it also feels like a responsibility, right? For us to take this book into our classrooms and read it to students and share it with families. And I hope that you enjoyed it today.
Wow. That's the first time I've heard someone else read my book, Dara and I's book, in our book. And it just, you know, one of the teachers on Facebook said that listening to this story it breeds silence. Like you can't, it's hard to find the words. And I think, Anne-Marie, when I wrote it with that in mind, that it's hard for teachers to find the words to teach this story. So maybe this book can do the work.
Yeah. What I would suggest is the same thing I did with Undefeated. I took it into my classroom of first graders, 6-year-olds, and read the book. And if they interrupted with questions or with comments, I let them. And they ended up having side conversations throughout the first reading of the book, because we read it more than once. But the biggest thing and the most important thing was to leave the book where they could access it. I left it in the book basket with all the other books I read, and they pull it and they read it on their own without me. And they look at the pictures and they'd hide under tables and in little corners and at their desks and every place they could just to talk about this book. And it wasn't silent after we read it. It definitely wasn't. There was lots and lots of conversation.
So Anne-Marie, you're a children's book author and you are an educator. And so you come from both vantage points. And so I just wonder how you were able to navigate the landmines, or were there any landmines that so many teachers are facing now around the country, and what they can teach and what they cannot teach? And how did you have to face that? And if so, how did you deal with it?
I was actually fortunate in my school system. At the time, they were very supportive of, any kind of literature that was relevant to all kids, right? And all families and all lives and all learning. So I didn't have that personal issue, but there's always that chance that you could have a parent who doesn't agree with a book and a child comes home and talks about it. So I'm not sure, if anything like that happened for any of the books that I read, but I just had to be brave. I can't imagine not exposing the students to books like An American Story or The Undefeated, and they were better for it. I had a class every year full of kids from all different places, and they appreciated being able to see themselves in books and talk about the history. And the conversations were incredible coming from 6-year-olds. I can't imagine doing this with 4th grade and 5th grade and 6th grade and the things that they could end up talking about.
So you read books like this to first graders?
I did. And if I had a classroom, let me tell you, Kwame, this book would already have been read and would be sitting in a basket. And I've already recommended it to so many first grade teachers because it needs to be read. It needs to be talked about.
So what do you say to folks who are having a difficult, tough time wrapping their heads around teaching or sharing these kinds of books that they deem challenging or that they deem that they deem too difficult for our kids, when they say things like, well, this will make first grade kids who happen to be white, it'll make them feel guilty. It'll make them feel bad about themselves. I just feel like that doesn't even make sense, but you've been in the classroom. Is that a legitimate argument? What's the concern?
So, I mean, I think if anything, it might make white kids maybe think about things they didn't know about before, or they're just learning more about now. But it did not impact friendships. It did not impact any of my students in a negative way. If anything, they got closer together after hearing books like this one and some of the other ones that I've read, because they had empathy and they had an understanding of what was behind us and how they can make sure that's not ahead of us. And I think teachers need to realize they don't have to translate all of these books. You just read it and let the kids talk about it. And if they want to explore more and do more research, then they can do those things. But it's really in the reading. Just read and watch what happens.
Got it. Got it. Cool. Cool. Well, I want to let you all know this will be archived on YouTube, because we know a lot of teachers and districts can't watch Facebook in the schools. So this will be archived on YouTube. We'll post the link. Any of these books, Strong, written by Eric Rosswood, An American Story, the books that you'll find today, Anne Marie's books, Arithmetic, Catastrophe, you can order these from your local independent bookseller. Go to the local bookstore and get it. One of my favorites is Brain Lair Books in in South Bend, Indiana. Call Kathy Burnett, go on her website. She will ship the books to you. If somebody could post Brain Lair Books, their link in the comments, that'd be great. And we just really thank you, Anne Marie, for sharing your voice today, because I'm losing mine or lost mine, and for reminding us how important it is to find strength in the words, to just be ourselves, to be comfortable in who we are. So hashtag Read Strong, wherever you are in this country, Read Strong America, because that allows us to be strong. Thank you, Anne Marie Stevens, for joining us today. And all right, Gina, take us out. Boom. Oh, I got the comms. Kwame, take us out. Boom.